Good morning, everyone. This is the licensing hearing for Café Coco. Councillor Melly has been elected as chair, and I'll now hand over to her.
Thanks, Ange. Yes, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this licensing hearing. We are being recorded and broadcast live online, and it will also be available to watch online after this hearing as well. So bear that in mind. And also, if you could use the microphones when you're speaking for the benefit of people in the room, and so for the recording as well, there's a button in the middle that says mic. If you press that, it will go green, and then you'll be, please speak into it so you can be picked up. Okay, I'll do some introductions. The three of us here are the hearing panel. Councillor Hook to my right, Councillor Nichols to my left, and I'm Councillor Melly. I'll be chairing. There's also some councillor officers as well. We've got Leslie Cook, who's the licensing manager, Angela Bealby, our Democratic Services officer, and Jodie Ingram here from legal. I'll let you two introduce yourselves. Are you here as the applicant or on behalf of the applicant?
Yeah, my name is Mary Atolagbe, and I am trying to be
welcome. Yes, do you mind saying it again with the microphone on, just for the recording?
My name is Mary Atolagbe, and I'm applying for the alcohol licence from Café Coco.
Welcome. And here's as the representative or on behalf of the representative?
My name is Richard Sezak, and I'm representing Joanna Buckham's because she's unable to attend due to chronic ill health.
Thank you and welcome. Okay. So we'll do declarations of interest. Do any of the members of the panel have any interests to declare? No, me neither. Excellent. So the next item on the agenda is exclusion of press and public. I propose that we exclude the press and public while we're making our deliberations at the end of the hearing. And that's because the public interest in excluding the public outweighs the public interest in that part of the meeting taking place in public under Regulation 14 of the Licensing Act 2003, Hearings Regulation 2005. Can we resolve that? Agreed. Great. Thank you very much. Agenda item 5 is minutes. We've got some minutes from a licensing hearing held on the 23rd of November 2023. Are we happy to approve those as a correct record? None of us were on that hearing panel, but I've checked with the people who were on it, and they feel it's correct off the record. So I'll sign those after this hearing. Okay. Right. So we'll move on to the main item of business on the agenda, which is the determination of the application. It's an application for a premises license for Café Coco at 20 Hawthorn Terrace in New Earswick. Can I just check that both of you have received the kind of running order and what the process is going to be, and you understand it? Is there anything that you'd like clarifying, or you're comfortable, you understand what the process is going to be today? Yeah, all right, great. Well, if you have any questions, you can always ask them. And you've both received all the information, the full kind of agenda pack and everything. Great, okay. So then we will start. Leslie, if you could please introduce your report for us, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. So this is the application for the grant of a premise licence for Café Coco, 20 Hawthorn Terrace, New Earswick, York. The licensable activities applied for are the supply of alcohol on the premises from 11 AM until 9 PM every day, with opening hours from 8 AM till 9 PM every day. A copy of the application and plan can be found at Annex 1. The premises is described in the application as a cafe with seating for approximately 18 customers inside and an external terrace seating for 8. An overview of the circumstances in which entertainment activities are not licensable can be found at Annex 2. As part of the application, the operating schedule submitted by the applicant showing how the licensing objectives would be met can be found at paragraphs 10 to 14 on page 26. I can confirm that the premises is not located within the cumulative impact assessment area and that the consultation process was carried out correctly. There are no representations before you today from responsible authorities. North Yorkshire Police has mediated with the applicant, who has agreed to amend the operating schedule. The agreed conditions can be found at Annex 3. Condition 8 of the agreed conditions on page 54 does not apply to this application, as the applicant has not applied for the off-sale of alcohol. They have only applied for on-sales. There has been one relevant representation from another person. The representative's details can be found at Annex 4. Their representation is predominantly based on the grounds of prevention of public nuisance and prevention of crime and disorder. Their representation can be found at Annex 5. A map showing the general area around the premises can be found at Annex 6. The committee has the following options when making your decision. Option 1, grant the licence in the terms applied for. Option 2, grant the licence with modified additional conditions imposed by the licensing committee. Option 3, grant the licence to exclude any of the licensable activities to which the application relates and add conditions accordingly. Option 4, refuse to specify a person on the licence as premises supervisor. Option 5, reject the application. That's a brief overview of the report, Chair.
Thank you, Leslie. There's an opportunity now to ask questions of the licensing manager, just in case there's anything that you'd like clarifying, or if you have any questions. We'll just go through in order, starting with the applicant. Marianne, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
No? Okay, and the representative, Bridget, do you have any questions?
No, I haven't.
Okay, all right, thank you. And any members of the subcommittee? Any questions? No, my only question was going to be about the off sales, but you've clarified that, so thank you very much. Okay, so we've got an opportunity now to hear from the applicant. Make your case, tell us something you'd like to. If you could try to keep it to under 15 minutes if possible, you don't have to use the full 15 minutes, but that's the time we've kind of given you to try and not go on too long. All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Well, I don't really have anything much more to add than what I've already specified in the letter. Basically, we're kind of a small cafe bistro, and the only thing, just obviously business is quite difficult at the moment, and every small business needs to kind of adapt to try and bring in as much money as possible because times are quite tough. And people in the cafe had already mentioned about possibly being able to buy a glass of wine or something. So we just decided to apply for the license just to be able to offer a little bit more to the business that we have. It's not our intention to open a bar or a pub or have clientele who are noisy. We'll just keep the same kind of clientele that we have at the moment, which tends to be families and elderly people. We're only asking to open until about 9 o'clock, and we probably won't open every evening. We'll just start off with a couple of nights a week to see how it goes. We wouldn't be having people congregating outside. There's absolutely no need for that to happen. It would just be a relaxed atmosphere with low music and people having like a glass of wine, maybe with a pizza. So yeah, there's nothing really else to add to that, really. We've got CCTV all over the premises, inside and on the outside. So personally, I think that by having the cafe open later into the evening will actually discourage the youths what do congregate around that area anyway, not to be there, because we've got like a nice bright cafe. So yeah, we don't want to cause any disruption to any residents, but obviously we still are trying to run a business. And when we took on the lease for the cafe, we'd already asked for the alcohol license, and that had been asked previously, I think, by the people before. So it was already in discussion when we got the cafe. So we were kind of the understanding that we would be able to get the license. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else really to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you're happy to answer some questions, then there's an opportunity for people to ask questions. Starting with the representative, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I think my friend who I'm representing today, her main concern is that it lives immediately above the cafe.
Yeah.
And that there was some sort of blurred lines about how long the cafe was going to be open for.
Yeah.
I think she received a letter from the Joseph Rowntree Trust saying it was going to be open till 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
And it's going to be open 7 days a week until 9 o'clock, and potentially opening from 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's a very long day. The flat itself is not insulated against sound. There's only the floorboards between the top of the cafe and her flat above. She is unable to leave the flat because she has a chronic disability, and she works from home. And because there's absolutely no let up in the no day off,
Yeah.
it means that, and what she does is she's a psychotherapist, so her work is giving advice and consultations with people, obviously online.
Sorry to interrupt. So there'll be an opportunity in a minute for you to kind of present your case, but do you have any questions for now for the applicant? And then we'll come to you in a minute to.
So really, it's the main concern would be the noise level, I think, and the fact that it's every day of the week.
Yeah.
And the other concern is the parking outside and the gathering of people outside.
Would you like to respond to that then?
Because I think Joanna was told that there would be tables put outside obviously in the summer and the spring. And therefore there would be people sitting outside. People come to the cafe, and normally they come to the shops where they just come and buy and leave. But when they're at the cafe, they're going to be there for a period of time.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit confused what the question was now, but
so it's the noise more than anything else.
Yeah,
I think the permanency is 7 days a week.
The shop, I think, it's a parade of shops, so I believe that they've been there for quite many years. So I do believe that it's really something that she possibly need to take up with Josie Browntree's Housing Trust. Obviously, we've taken on a lease for a shop, which we always knew that we could, have the alcohol license, and there's nothing in the lease about opening and closing times. And I did check with Josie Browntree's Housing Trust, and they said that Joanna had also not been told that the shop would close at 6 o'clock or anything of that nature. We don't create a lot of noise. There's a fish and chip shop there, there's another shop there, there's our cafe. It's not a noisy environment. She does live on a busy main road. You do get a lot of children hanging around. So like I said, I think that would possibly discourage the children from hanging around, because when we're all closed up, they do tend to congregate. But when it's light and bright, like I said, I think it might actually have the opposite effect. And it's with regards to, the health conditions, obviously I take all of that into consideration, but we are just trying to run a business, and I do think it's Josie Browntree's Housing Trust she needs to contact rather than us, because we're obviously paying rent, and, we're trying to make money like everybody else, but.
Well, so sorry, so I just want to try and keep the kind of the structure of the procedure.
Yes.
So if you have any questions to the applicant, we'll do that now, and then in a minute you'll have your 15 minutes to kind of present a case. Do you have anything that's specifically a question about the application or the kind of the operating schedule or anything like that?
The operating schedule, what do you mean by the operating schedule? I'm not sure what that term means.
Yeah, sorry, that was a bit of jargon, wasn't it? So if in the application, if you've got it in front of you, the application starts on page 31, and then everything in the conditions and sorry, I'm trying to find the page on the papers.
Page 26.
And page 43 as well as that. Yeah. So everything there, about how things like noise, disorder, public nuisance, that sort of thing, how that will all be kind of managed and mitigated is all part of the operating schedule. So yeah, and if you have any questions about that, then now's the time.
There was something that I read, which was something to do with that you would be in charge of ensuring that your clients were very quiet. And I don't tend to link alcohol as being very, consumption of alcohol and having a good time is going to be a quiet thing to do.
Yeah.
And I just know that the noise level.
I just think we won't be encouraging people to get drunk. Obviously, if anybody's drunk, then we wouldn't be serving them. We want to create a nice environment for people to be in. It's not a pub. It's not a bar. It's not somewhere where the loud music would be played. So I can't.
And I think during the day, are you having children's parties?
I'm not sure that's quite relevant to the alcohol application, to be honest, sorry.
So alcohol wouldn't be sold during
Um,
the children's party?
well, we don't have, we're not really having children's parties, so I'm not sure about that, but obviously we won't be serving anybody under the age of 18. We'll have all the strict regulations in place.
Any other questions for the
Well,
applicant?
only with one of the other questions is with regard to the parking outside, because it's actually on a pavement. And so people living in New Earswick have to walk along that pavement. I think there's a bus stop not very far away. And if there are cars parked there, how are people going to park who may want access to the flats?
I believe the parking is just for the customer parking for the shops. I think it's parking as a disabled space, and then I think all the rest of the parking is for the shops. But again, I'm not quite sure what the relevance to the alcohol licence is, the parking. I think that might be a separate issue for Joseph Roundtree's Housing Trust.
Right. When we have our deliberations and make a decision, we'll only take into account things that are relevant to licensing, and we'll, you know, and all the information that's presented, we'll make sure we only consider what's relevant.
Well, what can I?
Is that all your questions for the applicant for now? And then we'll move on to the next part, and you'll have your opportunity to present your case and everything as well. But
Okay.
yeah.
Chair, could I possibly just make one thing clear
Sure,
so
yeah.
that the representative and the applicant are aware? If this premises is granted a licence, as the licence holder, they will have to make sure that they comply with the legal requirements of the Licensing Act. And one of the most important things is that they do not undermine any of the 4 licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and protection of children from harm. And if the premises doesn't undermine any of the licensing objectives, they are literally putting their licence at risk, because the licence can be reviewed, and worst case scenario, the licence could be revoked from the premises. So if a licence is granted today, as the applicant and the licence holder, that they will have to make sure that they comply with the licence and do not undermine the licensing objectives. And that could be that they will have to make sure that their premises doesn't cause a public nuisance, which is noise. So whether it's asking customers to leave the premises quietly, not congregate outside and things like that. But there is, by getting a licence doesn't mean that this premises can suddenly have a free-for-all. They do have to comply with the Licensing Act. They do have to comply with the conditions on the licence, and they can't undermine the licensing objectives.
And when you say public, does that include residents that live near or above?
Public nuisance. Yeah, the cafe will not be able to cause a public nuisance. So that's to any of the residents that live within the vicinity of that premises.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, any members of the hearing panel have any questions for the applicant?
Just a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said you were planning to sell wine. Is that what you sold? Sorry. Should know better. You say the idea is just to have a glass of wine. What are you planning to stock? Are you going to have a barrel in there, or is it bottled beer and wine?
It would be bottled beer, wine, and a couple of spirit options. Yeah. And there would only be a couple of choices of each, because like I said, the priority is food. It's a food venue, so the alcohol would just be a secondary experience.
Yeah, and you said that you're not planning to open 7 days a week to start off with.
No,
What have you got in mind?
I can't see we'll ever do 7 days a week going into the evening. It was just maybe more of a Friday and Saturday evening, just to open a bit later, because you know, customers have kind of requested that.
And then the CCTV, have you got some already, or are you going to get it put in if you get the license?
Really good high spec CCTV.
And that was before the police came, or after they suggested?
We've had that from day one.
Right, cool.
I have a couple of questions, please. So the land at the front where you're planning to have outdoor seating, is that part of the same property as the rest of the cafe? Is it kind of private outdoor land, or does it belong to a different landowner, or is it halfway?
No,
Or
it's still part of the cafe, and then there's a small like little terraced area, but we have 4 very small tables outside the cafe, just where people who come walking their dogs basically just sit and have a coffee out there. Again, it's not something that we've thought people will maybe sit out. I imagine that people will be inside the premises when later on in the evening. It's not our intention to have like a terrace of people. They're just 4 very small tables.
And when people are sat outside at those tables, are they very visible to cafe staff who are inside?
Yeah, it's 2 big fronted it's a big fronted window, so they're just right up against the window of the cafe.
So in terms of conditions like alcohol not being taken off the premises and that sort of thing, that can be supervised.
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
people
absolutely,
inside.
yeah.
Okay, and I was hoping, so we've got this kind of layout of the premises that we've been given, but it's quite difficult to read. I was wondering if you just talk us through it.
Yeah.
In terms of where the front is, where the back is. There's kind of, it looks like there's kind of 5 different rooms, but it's not clear which are the customer areas and which are kind of staff areas and that sort of thing. 47, I think. Yeah, 47. Okay, so I'm at the best.
So not that I can really see this myself either. So when the cafe is a large room at the front, so all of the tables are all in one big room with the counter and the cooking prep area towards the back. So it's all completely open plan with 2 big windows with the 4 small seats outside. There is a corridor at the back with a toilet, and then it just goes into a back storeroom as well. So all of the customers would always be in the big open plan and the staff at all times, so everything is visible.
Okay. So in terms of the area that you've kind of applied to be licensed, you just kind of put a big red line around all of the ground floor.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just our premises, I think, that we put the red line around, but the alcohol and the seating area is all in the big main
Okay.
cafe.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the panel for the applicant? No? Great. Okay, in that case, we'll move on to the next part, which is the opportunity for the representative to make their case, make a representation to us. Again, up to 15 minutes. You don't have to use it all, but it's up to you, and start whenever you're ready.
Well, I'm representing my
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say before you start, actually, I was just going to mention to you that the written representation, what was published was redacted to withhold any kind of personal information like the address and the exact location, but we have got the full unredacted version here. So if you don't want to divulge any personal information like the exact location of the representative's bedroom and exact address and that sort of thing, you don't have to, because we have that information available to us, just because it's being publicly recorded. If you don't want to divulge that information, it's not necessary. Up to you then.
I think that I can read this out. Would that be best if I read it out?
Yeah, whatever you like, whatever you prefer.
Coco Café even didn't start extending hours and serve alcohol, and there's already an issue with their operating. I contacted Mrs. Atolagbe on the 1st of February and raised my concerns regarding noise and safety. I did not let her know that I have a disability. I did let her know that I have a disability and what impact the noise would have on me. She didn't inform me that in 2 days' time there would be a party in the cafe and that it would be extremely noisy. There was a children's party held on February the 3rd, which was extremely loud, and loud music, banging, and very noisy adults, and it continued for about 3 hours. And as a result of that, I had to stop my work, and I ended up with an attack of her illness, because it can be triggered by loud noise, which lasted until Monday. It means that it's going to be very difficult for her to live in the flat if they have, if the cafe is open for 7 days a week, from 8 until 9 o'clock at night. And when it shuts at 9, presumably they will be clearing up afterwards, so there may be noise still continuing after that time. The car park was completely occupied by the cafe guests, blocking access to the local shops. The cafe is in the middle of, well, it's in the middle of New Earswick, and it's next to a busy road. And when the cars have to leave, they'll all be leaving at once, presumably, or probably. And they will have also been drinking, so hopefully they'll behave responsibly, but I guess that's another concern. The place which was for the disabled person, there is actually a parking lot for a disabled person so they can stop and go to the shops, was occupied by a car which didn't have a disability badge in the window. And no local residents, it's unlikely, she's saying that she thinks that very few local residents will be using the cafe in the evening. A lot of elderly people live in that area and some disabled people who use wheelchairs. That is a public footpath, or a percentage of it is a public footpath, and people need to have access to it. Also, there's a bus stop there, so they won't be able to get along the path very easily if the cars are parked there, because the cars will take up most of the space. Mrs. Atolagbe is stating in a letter that I should complain about the local shop, but there is no issue with the local shop selling alcohol. There is a shop that sells alcohol, I think the local shop just a few doors down sells alcohol. Because most of the people buying the alcohol, they seem to just go home after it and not consuming it near her flat, or near my friend's flat. Whereas with the Coco Café, they will be drinking in it and also presumably outside if they're sitting at the tables. And my friend's flat, when you come out of the main, you come down the stairs, which are at the side of the flat and at the side of the cafe, and then you come through the main gate, which opens onto the front, where it's right next to the terrace area where the tables are going to be. So that means getting access to her flat, she has to go through the gate, and so does her son who lives there, or anybody who visits her. It's very close to the flat, to the cafe. Tables from the cafe in warm days are occupied by clients and are taking the whole width of the pavement, not allowing people on wheelchairs or scooters or mothers with pushchairs or prams to go by. Clients from the cafe are very often sitting very close to my gate, sometimes with big dogs, and restricting my access or not allowing me to leave the property. She has a small dog, and so she has concerns about that. She's also worried about the times, because initially in the window of the cafe, the notice came up, said it was till 9 o'clock, and then she got a letter from Joseph Roundtree Trust saying it would be 11 o'clock at night. So there seemed to be some discrepancy there. Prevention of public nuisance. Mrs. Untitled is stating that the music will be kept at a low level, and this is already not happening. And she is not warning Miss Buckham's about that. And I live immediately above the cafe. And there's nothing about how she was protected from the noise or the customers drinking alcohol next to her flat. And then obviously she reiterates about it being open 7 days a week from 8 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, potentially. But that could happen if the application goes through. There's constant noise when she's in her flat. she can hear people talking quite loudly, loud music, moving tables, doors banging. And there's never been an issue before with the two previous owners of the Café that have been there previously when Joanna was living above. But with the Coco Café, it's been different. It's already very difficult. The noise from 8 till 3 or 4 p.m. every day. It will be unbearable if it's 7 days a week until 9 o'clock. But she said, I can hear the noises very often already from 7 o'clock. She sleeps above the cafe. And because of her chronic condition, she's unable to, she spends most of the days in the room just above and sleeps there, and she works there in that floor immediately above the cafe. I work from home. The only place where there is good internet is above the cafe, and I work with mentally vulnerable clients, and I'm unable to work with this noise, and that's happened already on a Saturday when there was a children's party. She couldn't work. She had to stop. She had to cancel the appointments that she'd got. When she took the flat from Joseph Rowntree, and I agree that you said that she should take this up with Joseph Rowntree, I was very cautious about taking the tenancy on because of the shop downstairs, but she was reassured by their housing officer at the time that the latest it would be open would be 6 o'clock, and that there have always been quiet businesses and not causing any concern with the tenants above. And that is why she took the flat, because she was already ill at that time, and she knew how her illness could be exacerbated by loud noise particularly. And it was like that with the previous owners until the Coco Café owners took over the shop. With previous owners, there was no music. The cafes were open 5 days a week, and it was open from 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And she said, this place is not meant to be open till late or selling alcohol because there is a flat above. When Joseph Rowntree was planning that there would be a cafe with late parties and loud music, they should have rented it as a whole with the flat and the shop together. So I realise that's nothing to do with you. She has got 4 chronic conditions, which means that she is unable to leave the flat without help, and it's very difficult for her. And these conditions are exacerbated by loud noise. So she has contacted the City of York Council about noise, and they've apparently sent you a letter about that. When she took the tenancy over, she had to sign an agreement confirming that she would behave in such a way that it wouldn't disturb the business downstairs, and she assumed that would be reciprocal, but it obviously isn't. The strong possibility that customers would be drinking alcohol in and around the premises she finds very concerning, as access to the property is next to the cafe entrance, and when the weather is fine, tables are permanently placed outside. And she said that she would feel quite threatened at having to manoeuvre her way through that in order to get to her flat or get out again. I have only one entrance, and this would be easily accessible for anybody to break into.
Okay, thank you very much for that representation. There's an opportunity now to ask the representative questions, and we'll start with the applicant if you have any questions for the representative.
Yes. I'm not sure if there are questions of this matters or not. I just wanted to point out that
if it's not questions, there'll be another opportunity for you to kind of sum up and make any other final points at the end. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got no questions there.
All right, thank you. Any questions from members of the panel for the representative?
No.
No, that's comprehensive.
Okay.
So I just wanted to be clear. So the noise, it's inside, it's caused from inside the cafe and the tables outside the cafe. And the nature of it, it's the music and it's the sound of people,
I think it's because, and potentially it could be 18 people within quite a small area, actually. I can't imagine. I haven't been inside the cafe, but I can't imagine it's very large. So if it was full, I think the noise would be really could be quite excessive. And people would be coming and going and standing outside and until 11 o'clock at night, potentially. I mean, I agree, it may not happen every night till 11 o'clock, but in the summer months, it could be potentially quite noisy. And then, I presume you know where it is and what it's like there. When you come out of those shops, a lot of those cars are coming and going onto that road. And that road actually through New Earswick is quite busy. Buses go along there quite regularly, cars are going there, and all those people would be exiting onto the road at approximately the same time, or they'd be coming and going, so that's another thing that I feel it's quite dangerous. And I think she does as well. That's one of her objections.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from the panel? No? Okay. Yes, so there's an opportunity now, just if there are any final points you wanted to make, anything that's come up as a result of discussion or anything like that, any final points that you would like to make, any other information you'd like to add for us to have, and we'll do it in the reverse order. So we'll start with the representative and then the applicant. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, any final points to make?
Well, one of the things that Joanna did say was that she, the owners of the cafe don't actually live in New Earswick, so they won't be affected in any way.
Any other final points to make?
No, I think that's it.
And what about you? Do you have any?
Yeah, I've got a few.
Yeah, then, yeah, go ahead. If you could try to keep it to 5 minutes, but yeah, any information that you feel we should have, though, we'd like to have.
Yes, before we took over the cafe, it was a very, very rundown area. And I actually know the previous owners quite well, and they really struggled to make the cafe work, which is probably why it's quite quiet. Since we've had the cafe, we've had so many fantastic comments from the residents of New Earswick. Unfortunately, we're never packed out. There is space for about 18 people. It would be brilliant if we were packed out, because obviously we're trying to run a business. The reason it closed before, because it's very, very hard to run a business. So our objective is to make it busy and is to make it welcoming. The car parking spaces are for all of the shops, and they are designated parking spaces which are quite far from the pavement, and there is a massive gap going onto the road. So I can't see what the parking has got to do with our cafe. The majority of people walk to the cafe because they're doing a little walk around New Earswick or whatever. Again, I'm not quite sure what the relevance to the parking is to do with us. Yeah, we're not running a cafe any different to anybody else who has a small business. We keep the music on low. Of course, there's general chitter chatter, but that's the nature of having a business. There's nothing we can really do about that. Obviously, we're not going to encourage people to be rowdy and loud, but still, we want it to be a welcoming place. I do feel really bad that the lady above has got quite a few health issues, but again, I do believe this is maybe more to do with Joseph Roundtree's than us. We are trying to make money and we're trying to create a business. I'm not really quite sure, apart from addressing the objectives about having the alcohol license and make sure that we're obeying those rules. There's not really much more I don't think that we can do. You just mentioned as well about the access to her flat, so we have the double fronted cafe, then there's the post box and our little tables. So we're all contained in this very kind of little area. And then the flat is kind of down the corner. So, there's never, ever, people would never, ever be congregating outside the entrance to where her flat is, because it's kind of like not even in front of our cafe, it's to the side. So I'm pretty sure that that should never, ever be an issue. And I think that a lot of the points raised were not really relevant to the alcohol application in the cafe. I think it's a different, different issues with Joseph Roundtree's really. That's everything. Thank you.
Sorry, is that everything? Yeah. We'll only consider what things that are relevant to the licensing application. Because we can only consider things that are relevant to the licensing application and licensing objectives. Are there any final questions or points of clarification or anything from any members of the panel, or do you feel like you have all the information we need to be able to make a determination? Yeah, Councillor Vick?
Yeah, it's just the question of music, because 1 minute you said there was no music and you said, well, it's quiet music, so.
Yeah,
Right.
we have music at the cafe, but it's very low level, just ambient music. It's not what you'd get in any single cafe, any business. Yeah, it should be.
Can I say that there's obviously a contradiction there then, because obviously Joanna's saying that the music's very loud.
No,
And it reverberates.
We go to the cafe quite often and we ask the girls to turn it up a little bit because it's so quiet that you can't actually hear it. It's very, very quiet, the music that is there.
I just had a question about the number of customers, number of covers, because you put in the application that there's space for 18 covers indoors and 8 outdoors. Are there ever more than that? If you do hold some sort of event and party, are there people standing and putting more in, or?
Have my daughter's birthday party there, which we know more was in any, it could be a neighbour's house or it could have been anybody's little party. But never have an event, never actually held an event.
So if we'll go away and deliberate, and then if we were to grant the application, would you be willing to accept a condition to set a maximum number of covers? Okay, any other questions from anyone on the panel? Feel we have all the information we need? Okay, all right, well, in that case, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. We'll go away and deliberate and hopefully make a decision, today. It won't take too long to deliberate, hopefully. And then if you do want to wait here, we'll come back and tell you the decision straight away. If you don't want to wait, you will still be notified straight away in writing. You don't have to wait to hear the decision. You can go away if you like, or you can wait here in the cafe. Yeah, and you'll be notified ASAP of the decision. I mean, as long as it takes to make a decision, we don't want to rush it. We want to, right.
So I just wondered if it's in writing, then we will.
You will be informed in writing straight away. I just think, yeah, they'll find out ASAP either way, whether you wait or not. So it's up to you whether you want to wait or not. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.